Welcome to the Still Men podcast, where we take a 15-minute look at a news story and try to have an honest conversation about it. We're the Still Men. My name is Will, and with me is Jay. Say hi, Jay.
Hello, Will.
Jay, I want you to imagine a strong, significant female icon with an incredible sense of style. Who are you thinking of?
Beyonce?
No.
I don't know, Madonna? No, she's out right now. No, Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish. Here, I'll give you some clues. This might be a little too difficult. Okay, this icon wallows in her own filth, squeals in excitement, and it can put some sweet kicks on her cloven hooves.
Yeah, Miss Piggy, I guess.
No, today we're going to talk about Kamala Harris and why the media is obsessed with her. So today we're going to talk about 5 articles by 6 journalists that were posted in 24 hours. So I'm just going to read you these titles. Kamala Harris may have made Timberland boots cool again. Kamala Harris, Timberlands, Pearls combo has our vote. Kamala Harris wears her Timberlands, gets shit done. Kamala Harris wearing Timbs on the campaign trail is such a mood. Kamala Harris wore Timberlands and the internet took notice.
This is
yeah.
must be a huge deal.
I read them all. They're incredibly cringy. The description, they just paint this picture of how awesome she looks in these boots. They all call back to that time she wore Converse sneakers, in case you didn't hear about that like a million times already. The secondary purpose of these articles, I think, is to mention to all of us that she was in California talking about the wildfires with Gavin Newsom, but that's totally just background noise, so I wouldn't focus too much on that. And then at the end, I wasn't sure if I was reading a coordinated political campaign article or whether this was just an ad from Timberland. So I have a question for you. Are these real journalists, political operatives, or just shallow morons?
Can they be all 3 at once, Will? Because if you ask me if they're shallow morons, my inclination is yeah. If you ask me if they're real journalists, I would say technically they would count as journalists. I mean, they wrote stories and published them on these media websites. And are they political operatives? They probably do care who wins the election and are quite happy to make one of the candidates involved in it look good. But hey, by the way, edit maybe right here. I think her name is pronounced Kamala as opposed to Kamala. Do you care to check that? And because I think you were saying Kamala.
I don't care. I don't care.
Okay. Then yeah.
Yeah.
I don't guess I care either.
I remember this now. It's Kamala.
Kamala.
Yeah, Kamala. Yeah, but I don't care. Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm just not going to call them real journalists. I think that's just disrespectful to actual journalists. I mean, I agree with you. They're technically, but then that's just a very low bar. But I guess the bigger question here is, what do you think the purpose of these type of articles are? And like, why are they all within 24 hours? And these were all from Yahoo News too.
Well, they were trying to be timely because she was in California doing the wildfire thing. So they're in the rush, because you got to be first. If you're a day late in this news cycle, then you might as well be a year late. But how could this not be? Like, I would be shocked if this were not an ad for Timberland. If Timberland just had nothing to do with this or wasn't paying for it, because they don't have to say that, right? You don't have to admit that you're doing product placement, and they have Timberlands in the title. What are the chances that it's not Timberland, the company, has nothing to do with it?
Well, I mean, you have me convinced. Before this conversation, I was not convinced at all. I do think this was coordinated, but I think it's coordinated from a really bad angle. Like, I think the media is showing itself to be completely untrustworthy, to have 6 different journalists kick out basically the same article for the same platform. It's just kind of pathetic. And I don't know. I mean, like, my question is like, what is the purpose of this? And to me, the number one purpose is to appeal to shallow voters. They want people who don't think about the issues to think, oh, Kamala is really cool because she has a cool sense of kickwear. I don't know, shoe wear. What do you call? What's cool the way a cool way to say it now? I don't know.
Do,
So I
I
don't
think
know. And
people call them kicks. I've never used that term seriously, but I think I've heard people younger than me call them kicks. But yeah, I can understand. I don't know. Like, if I really work, I can see a reason why this is a deal if you are into fashion. Now, I cannot relate at all to being into fashion. I don't think I've gone clothes shopping in like 5 years. Like, I'm the type of dude who just wears whatever his mom and grandma get him for Christmas. I don't know. If I'm trying to be generous, if you're into fashion, and people are, like, it's a hobby, it's like a legit worldwide hobby. People just like wearing new interesting things and showing them off, and they're interested in other people wearing new interesting things. Like Timberlands, I would say they appeal to young people, and Democrats, Kamala and the whole Democratic platform it leans young people. So there's some sense in that from their perspective. If they were to convince me that, hey, our audience likes this sort of thing, it's our job to get clicks. We're not doing anything nefarious other than giving people what they want. I guess I could believe it. It's just tough to believe it's not. It just feels ugh.
yeah, I don't know. Before I say what I'm going to say, I just want everybody to know that I also wear Timberlands. I'm wearing them right now. So I
Of
think you should all
course.
take my opinion very seriously for what I'm about to say. I think it's weird that we revere democracy to the level that we do, and yet we're probably seeing an article from people who are trying to squeeze out as many votes as they can to get their preferred candidate over the top and winning. And I don't know, like, is democracy all that great when you're depending on people who are going to vote because of your fashion, because you want to wear Converses or Timberlands somewhere?
Yeah, I would shudder to imagine someone voting based on what sort of shoes the candidate wears. I mean, you can't think of anything more shallow. But I think
Or you're just
if
motivated. Like, even if you're like initiated into the political realm because of somebody's choice of shoe, and then you go into it and you're like, oh yeah, I totally think gun rights should be a thing. I just first of all, it makes no sense that that's how it's going to work out. But overall, like, I think this also speaks to that. I think we're going deeper and deeper into this idea that we want to belong to a cult of personality, which I think Obama was guilty of, and Trump is definitely guilty of. I think there's an initiative to make something like that for Kamala.
whatever sort of society or government you have, there's always a battle of ideas. If you want people to do what you want to do, you've got to convince them some way to do it. And you can make the argument for yourself that you know what's right. And I'm actually morally obligated to get people on my side, even if I'm doing it through some sort of trick backdoor or causing people to develop some sort of bias based on the clothing people wear. Couldn't you say, if you really believe Republicans are horrible, then it's okay to get people to vote for someone based on anything? Because the end result, you believe, is good. It doesn't matter if people are acting in a way that's not fully genuine.
I guess, but that undercuts your whole argument for whatever, I don't know, morality or policy argument you're trying to make. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You just need to trick people into voting for you based on like really shallow reasons. So I feel like you can make that argument, but you can't have it both ways. It's just it
Like,
rubs me the wrong way.
so any of these media, the companies who let these stories run, the editors who put them out, the writers who wrote them, none of them should ever be allowed to look down on a similar Republican ad. Say for like Mike Pence. Mike Pence comes out and he's got on his nice, like, some sort of nice camouflage jacket from some company.
Bass Pro
Like
Shop.
Bass Pro Shop. Yeah, Mike Pence has a Bass Pro Shop hat on as he's doing one of his speeches. These people are no longer allowed to say that's bullshit because they're doing the same thing. Of course, they wouldn't. I fully believe that the people that are this committed to doing everything possible to get their side to win are hypocrites. That's part of the whole problem as I see it with this media battle is that they're totally willing to act like hypocrites because they're so convinced their side is right.
Yeah, I really think America needs to come to terms with the idea that maybe democracy isn't that great. And I would like to offer this and all articles like that as evidence to show that democracy isn't that great and it's just appealing to the lowest common denominator.
The foot soldiers of democracy. Get it? Foot soldiers? Well, this also makes me think about how the incentives for journalism are terrible right now. Their shareholders hold them obligated to grow and make a profit. And who the hell likes real journalism? Like everybody keeps clicking on these Timberland, this trash journalism. I almost have sympathy for these companies because they're put in this position where that's what their incentive is to be shallow to make sure they make money. But I don't know how to
I
fix
wonder
that
if these
necessarily.
journalists, when they're going through, journalism school, like, are these the articles they dream about posting in big publications in the future? I just, I don't understand like how you can't be embarrassed for these things.
I'll give them some credit and say maybe they really don't want to be doing this and that they're pressured into doing it and they just have to rationalize it by saying it's part of the job. As long as they're doing real work that they're proud of and this is just the thing they have to do because it's just part of the job and the economy we live in. See, this isn't fake news, but this is clickbait. Like there's fake news that's intended to just spread false information or exaggerate things. And then there's news that's just, well, the word we've been using is shallow, but it is really just there to get as many people as possible to visit your website or your social media timeline.
I would have called this fake news. Something else I looked into, I was curious if anybody had done any studies on how many journalists are Democrats versus Republicans, because I can't imagine reading an article in a mainstream publication that would be like, look how cool GW is in his Timberlands. We'll just go with that since I can't think of anything else. And I did find something. The Washington Post had an article about this. And did you know only 7% of journalists, 7% of journalists identify as Republican? I mean, that's kind of insane to me. I mean, you don't want your journalism to be biased, of course, but 7% is just.
I mean, that's kind of the whole reason Fox News even started was because over the years, CNN mostly, but most of the media, what we think of as the mainstream media, was starting to lean so left. It provoked a backlash, and I would say, I don't think it's any one person's fault. I don't know. It's just kind of the way things happened. But by the way, mainstream media, I think, is the most dumb phrase in mainstream media as I'm using it because it almost is always used by people on the right as a pejorative for liberal media. But the most mainstream media in the entire world is Fox News. It's the most watched channel. It's the most viewed content in the entire world. Fox News is the most mainstream you can possibly get.
Yeah, but I mean, for our intents and purposes, when we talk about mainstream, I'm talking about Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, like across all
Yeah, I
the
know what you mean.
spectrums.
Yeah, I just take issue with conservatives thinking that the tons of media that they do have isn't somehow mainstream
No,
because they and they're both doing this. It's just there are just as many media outlets out there, whether they're podcasts, talk radio, news channels, or websites. I mean, there's it's equal.
Yeah, for every article there is about Kamala Harris wearing Timberlands, there's another dumb article from Fox News about someone stepping on a flag or something. So I can agree with you on that.
Absolutely.
Overall, though, I think that was pretty good. Do you have any last thoughts?
Oh, I did want to mention a couple of things real quick.
Well, we're out of time.